Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. I do hope you're doing okay during this very difficult time of quarantine and lockdown during the pandemic. I do hope my videos are of some help to ease some stress for you. This is the Samsung Galaxy S10 released in March of 2019. I'm going to have a look at it for you to see if it's worth going for last year's flagship over this year's S20 series, and in some ways it will benefit people who don't want all the flashy new features, as it does still have a ton of features, some of which are the same and some of which are, not included on the S20 series anymore even. But I'm going to talk you through my thoughts and if it's worth picking up. So we'll start off on the design of the phone itself. Now, in some aspects, I believe this is superior to the S20 in terms of the design, hence the very symmetrical look on the back with the cameras in the landscape orientation rather than in the portrait orientation being in the corner. This made it look more unique and definitely a bit sleeker. The S20, it's all off to one side, but that's personal preference. I do prefer horizontal cameras like this. The S20, granted, it does look nice, but I think this looks better because it's completely symmetrical, of course, minus the buttons being one on that side and then two on this side. Samsung logo towards the center. It's a aluminum and glass construction as well. And we do have three cameras on the back like the S20 series. We have your standard wide camera. This, unlike the S20, has a dual aperture. That means it can switch between a very, very wide f1.5 and a much lower f2.4. So you're going to get much brighter light into the camera than you would do if you had a single aperture. We have a single LED flash. We have the ultra wide camera with a 123-degree field of view. We do even have a heart rate monitor on the back. Now, they got rid of this in the S20 series because I think most people weren't really using it much. But what you would do is you put your finger on the back there and it would shine an infrared light into your finger and you could see your blood oxygen level and your heart rate. So that would be good for any of you who are very fitness based. And then we do also have, of course, the 12 megapixel telephoto. All of these are 12 megapixel sensors and do take very, very sharp video and photos. Speaking of which, in video you can switch between all of the lenses, which is very nice. On the top of the device we do simply have the SIM tray and a micro SD card slot, which is very nice. And we have a microphone towards the left. On the right hand side of the device, it's literally just the power button by itself. And we do have, of course, that curved display, so you can see when it's switched on, it shines right through. This is more curved than the S20 series. On the bottom of the device, towards the center, we do have USB-C, we have another microphone, the speaker, and a 3.5mm headphone jack. This is something that you will not find in flagships in 2020, and that's just something that's going to be phased out over time. Since Apple got rid of it with the iPhone 7 in 2016, everybody has been following suit, pushing wireless earphones, which I think is a good thing because I do not like wired earphones anymore. After using Galaxy Buds for a couple of years now, I don't look back. I don't like the idea of having a cable and having to stay a certain distance, not being able to walk away from the device I'm using. On either side we do have the antenna bands for cellular connectivity, and on this side we do have the single volume rocker and the Bixby button. Inside we do have a fairly large 3400 milliamp battery. That's going to definitely give you all day battery life. In my tests I've never once had to plug it in during the day, especially as it's only pushing a 6.1 inch display and it's only a 60Hz panel as well. It is Quad HD, but it doesn't suck battery life like the S20 does. So that front display then, this is absolutely beautiful. It's 3040 by 1440 resolution with a 19:9 aspect ratio, 6.1 inches on the diagonal. That's going to give you a pixel density of roughly 550 ppi. That is very sharp, even sharper than the Galaxy S20 Plus. We do have a HDR10 display and Corning Gorilla Glass 6, as well as the always-on display infamous on Samsung devices. Despite it being 2019 flagship, it is still 88.3 screen-to-body ratio. That's very high, even more than some phones, including the iPhone, which still have, thicker bezels around the side. This is really cut down on the forehead. No bezels on the sides, and then it does have a bit of a chin, which of course has been even more reduced on its predecessors. Out of the box, this did come with Android 9 Pie. However, since it has received the Android 10 update on Samsung's One UI 2.1. That includes all the new gestures, etc. So you swipe up to go home, you hold to get to your recent apps, and then you have the back swipe as the back button. This is a 4K 30 video test on the Samsung Galaxy S10. It's very, very steady. We do have very good optical stabilization. Video quality, despite being 2019 Samsung flagship, is still very, very good. We've got beautifully smooth footage here, even while walking around. And much like the S20 series, we do have dual pixel autofocus, which gives you instantaneous and very quick focusing, even on close-up subjects like this leaf here. Overall, image quality is great, as you would expect. Nice and sharp. It does oversaturate greens just a little, and overall the colour temperature is a little bit warm. But I'm sure lots of people will like this, and this will be their preference. Taking a look at the bokeh in the background when you do a blurred shot, a bokeh shot, the colour temperature shifts a little. So if you look at the blurred background shot here, the colour temperature is a bit cooler and it's not as bright and saturated. So that's a little bit more natural, but it would be nicer if the consistency was there in the colour temperatures. Here I've taken a few shots with the telephoto camera here, then the regular wide, and last but not least, the ultra wide, just to give you a glimpse of how stunning these photos can be. You can take much, much wider photos of landscapes. You can fit more people into shots. It's just awesome to have that 123-degree field of view. And last but not least, we have some night mode photos. These are all taken with just a little bit of light coming from the house. Very, very, very dark outside. It's still brightening up the photo, granted, but they are a little bit soft and not quite as sharp as the 2020 phone, because of course that sensor is much newer, and of course the newer phones have better image processing to really bring out the details in those shadows. It's okay. It's not the king of night mode. Overall, despite the fact it's 60 Hz, it still feels very fluid. Even coming from the S20 Plus that I've been using, it's all right. If you haven't ever used a 120 Hz display before, this is going to be very, very fluid to you. Before I used the S20, I used to think this was very, very smooth. It's almost as smooth as the iPhone, in fact. Inside, in the UK and Europe, we do have the Exynos 9820, Samsung's 8nm CPU from last year, and in the US and other markets we do have the Snapdragon 855, which is built on a 7nm process. Now, the Snapdragon is definitely going to give you better performance. However, the Exynos I have found has not given me any hiccups whatsoever. Gaming performance is very, very smooth, very well optimized. And on this gorgeous Super AMOLED panel, of course, it is a dream experience. For those of you who are absolute audiophiles and require a headphone jack, this is absolutely a phone to go for. Of course, because you have the disappearing and now feature-filled headphone jack. It's disappearing off phones, folks. I'm very sorry about that, and I really don't care. Frankly, because I've been using wireless earbuds for so long, and it's so easy. I don't need cables or anything. It does also have a 32-bit audio DAC, so for those of you that understand it, that's much higher resolution audio quality. So if you have some nice headphones that can take advantage of that, then by all means, it's here. You have 32-bit audio. We do have reverse wireless charging built in, or what Samsung called wireless power share. So I have got my infamous Galaxy Buds here. What we do is we turn on the feature in the power menu like that. Comes up with this ready to charge. You can turn the screen off if you want to, and it appears with an LED on the back in the heart rate sensor showing you blue when it's ready to charge, and then it will be red when it is charging. So I'll place that down and then place my Galaxy Buds on top. And they start to charge, and if you can see there is a red LED showing that they are currently charging. At launch, this came out in many colours. There was Prism White, Prism Black, Prism Green, Prism Blue, Canary Yellow, Flamingo Pink, and now there's even some newer colours, Cardial Red and Smoke Blue. Of course, these have changed as the phone has been out for more than a year now. In terms of pricing, the S10 can be had for as little as £549, and the S10 Plus can be had as little as £669. That's come down significantly, of course, since the launch, when this launched at £799. And of course, it's going to be much more attractive to those of you who want a phone which has very good specs, yet doesn't break the bank. We do have the first ultrasonic in-display fingerprint sensor. Just place your thumb on there and it unlocks. Now I find it does have a tendency to misread fingerprints every now and then, but most of the time, if you register your fingerprint properly and you get the good muscle memory of knowing where it is even when the display is off, it is very accurate. But you do have to place it on exactly the right point, because even if it's not correctly placed, it will say no match, of course. But most of the time, I have had no issues with it. And because it's ultrasonic, it has the advantage over optical sensors, which are also in-screen granted. But first of all, it does not need to shine a very bright light on your finger, so it does not have the risk of contributing to burn-in. It is more secure, as it's registering a 3D image of your fingerprints because it's using sound waves, whereas the optical one is simply taking a 2D image with a camera into the display. And thirdly, it can work through things like very light water. So if your finger is a little bit wet or you have dirt on your finger, it's going to work fine with this because it's using the sound waves rather than a camera. With the Exynos 9820 inside, we do get a single core score of 779 and a multi-core score of 1927. That's a pretty standard score for a 2019 phone. Of course, it's not going to be up to the screaming performance of the Snapdragon 865, but that is the very latest chip from Qualcomm. It's also the Exynos. It's not going to do as well as the Snapdragon 855, sadly. But keep in mind, this is still a very powerful chip, and it's still going to do you very well. It does have a tendency to get a little bit hot when doing some very, very intensive tasks like benchmarking. But in casual gaming and stuff, it's going to be fine on either chips. It does come with a 15 watt power adapter in the back. That's going to be good for getting you 0 to 100% in about an hour and 20 minutes or so. That's pretty good considering it's only 15 watts and it's a 3400 milliampere battery. So guys, that is my review of the Galaxy S10 in 2020. Thank you very much for watching, and I do hope you have enjoyed the video. Please like, comment and subscribe, hit the sub button and hit the bell to receive notifications every time I post a new video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.